Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another week of Good Guy Sports. We are back here to close out July as we look forward to August, one of the best sports months in terms of lots of stuff coming back, football, Premier League football, even as well. Lots to look forward to in August, but as of today, last day of July, still a lot to talk about in sports. And we're going to start today with the MLB trade deadline, which, as we record here at around 6 Eastern East Coast time, the trade deadline has just closed. And there's a lot of activity, maybe no massive deals per se that you're used to seeing, but lots and lots of activity for sure. Um, Teams on the bubble maybe deciding to sell, buyers and sellers, as we usually see, and some of the biggest deals that we've seen. It really comes down to a lot of the teams that really need a bit of extra help. So whether it's the Yankees, the Rangers, Padres, the Mets, Dodgers, teams like that just want to get a couple of extra pieces to kind of uh, put together their playoff roster. There's certainly been lots of moves for sure. So I think some of the biggest moves probably that we saw. I know the Diamondbacks third baseman was a big transaction piece for a lot of teams, right? And I think he was one that was mentioned for um, the Yankees, Suarez, wasn't it? And he ended up going to the Seattle Mariners in a deal there. So I'd say probably he was the biggest piece on the market per se. He's having a really great year. I think he's 36 home runs,
36 home runs, and
87 RBIs up to this point, right, Mike?
yeah, and the Cal Riley has got 41 home runs. So the Mariners offense is stacked.
They're certainly gearing up for a big push here, aren't
Well,
they?
you got to, they still have Rodriguez
Hmm.
with 19 home runs, and their left fielder Andy Ara, I'm going to mispronounce his name, Arizarena.
Of Rosarena, yeah,
Rosarena has got 21.
yeah. Yeah, yeah.
So I'm not familiar with the Mariners pitching staff, but if their pitching staff can hold water, their offense, uh, it's really they're gonna make it's gonna be fun to watch the Mariners and the Astros fight it out for the AL West. Astros were very busy.
Hey,
I
don't forget. Hey, don't forget about the Rangers and the Angels too, because they're also in the mix in
maybe
this
not the
loaded
Angels, but
AL West. But the Angels,
they're below 500, so
Blake. I mean, Blake Gerke, you may want to think about
that's
it
my name.
because they're one of those teams that are sneaky
The
and
Angels will
they're
never win in my lifetime. Mike Trout's gonna hit, like amazingly, and they're gonna finish below 500 every year. It's
well, you
just kind
never
of
know. The Angels are just peaking at the right time, and they might be one of the surprise teams out there for teams that are out in the hunt in the for the AL wild card. So you never know.
right,
Weird things
right.
can happen.
But I
Yeah.
think Houston brought back Correa, right, Mike? That was kind of
Yep.
their big play.
Correa. Yeah. He will probably play third base since the Astros third baseman is on the injured list.
Okay.
But the Astros also got Jesus Sanchez from the Marlins to another good left-handed bat for the Astros.
Yeah,
So
now for sure, a good pickup there.
yeah.
Just keeping track. I think the Yankees made a couple of moves kind of close to the deadline. They actually play in Tampa right now, and they ended up
Hmm.
picking up Caballero. Um, I think he's going to play. I'm not sure where he's going to play, but he's a utility player from Tampa. They picked
Hmm.
up,
Yeah.
and the Yankees also picked up uh, Doval from the Giants as well.
Hmm. And
An arm
they picked up David Bednar
from
Buck
Pittsburgh.
from the Bucks today.
So will he be their closer now, I guess, right?
He probably be their closer.
Yeah.
And
So they've been active.
they've been active, and Max Fried is still pitching well for the Yankees.
Yeah.
So that's with Judge on the IL. He's on a 10-day IL,
Hmm.
but hopefully he'll be back. That'll be a fun one to watch because the Blue Jays are going to give the Yankees a run for their money. And then you can't forget the Red Sox as well. So those three are going to be all biting for uh, for the lead. Now the Blue Jays picked up as an interesting pickup. They picked up Shane Bieber from the Guardians.
Mm.
Yeah. He's coming back from injury, right?
Well, yeah, he didn't pitch all last year because he had Tommy John.
Yeah.
So interesting trade. Uh, my guess is the Blue Jays are looking ahead for the playoffs.
For
The
sure. Yeah. They're in a good
Stafford,
position right now, aren't they?
yeah,
Four
you
game lead
know.
over the Yankees in that division as of
hmm
today. So.
And they had a decent pitching staff,
Hmm.
you know, not discounting Max Scherzer, who's on the Blue Jays, but their other arms are
Mm.
good.
Hmm.
Um, so that was interesting.
And
Uh,
also in other MLB news, the Phillies acquire Duran Duran from the Twins,
hmm
which um and then you have the other team in New York, the Mets acquire
Mets.
Tyler Rogers from the Giants,
hmm
which one of those teams in the LA East are becoming buyers, where of course the Nationals and Braves are becoming
Yeah.
sellers. But
They also
but
got the Mets also got Mullins
Yeah,
to
set
play
they
to
picked
play
up
center from
yeah, they picked
Baltimore, right?
yeah, and they picked up Ryan Helsley, another arm from the Cardinals.
Hmm.
So the Phillies and the Mets are going to go head to head.
Yeah, it's going to be an arms race there in the NL East for sure.
hmm
and then they have the Reds picking up. How about this one? Kelly Hayes from in the same division. You have to go back from the last time that happened. Actually happened not long ago this year, where you had the Blue Jays. One of the Orioles players swiped in the division from the Blue Jays during while a game is happening. Remember that? Well, this one's a little different. You have Kaylee Brian Hayes from the Pirates going to the Reds in the division, which is kind of crazy, but it does happen in a weird way. But yeah, and so yeah, that one's striking, but also this one's going to have Uncle Mike look away for a second because the Cubs do require one of their outfielders from the Nationals. Michael Astorka from the Nationals goes to the Chicago Cubs.
Yeah, well, he's a starting pitcher.
Well, yeah, because he's going to a team where where I think they're going to be winners of the trade deadline, where David Ross and the manager are building a culture up there. The
hmm
fans up the North Siders are in the Windy City are going to build what would be a winning culture and a championship million dollar title contenders possibly, but a winning culture for those fans up in Wrigleyville for the Cubs are loving what they're seeing right now in Chicago.
hmm Yeah, the Cubbies picked up Andrew Kidrich from the Orioles as well to boost their
That's
bullpen.
right. That's right. Things are looking great up there in the Windy City for sure. No
Hey,
question about it.
the fun times in Wrigleyville.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Well, I think
Something to be looking something to be very excited for. That's for sure.
yeah, the I think surprising that both the Twins and the Orioles were sellers this year.
Yeah,
That's surprising.
Baltimore big seller, so they also ended up shipping out a couple players to San Diego.
hmm
They got Ryan O'Hearn and Loreno, first baseman
Yeah.
and outfielder from Baltimore. And
Yeah.
San Diego was active as well. They probably made another big move earlier with the Athletics.
hmm
They acquired their closer,
hmm
Mason Miller, and then I think a starter as well from the Athletics, both pretty highly rated players. So
Yeah. And Padres, I think, decided to keep Cease. There had been rumors that the Padres were going to try to deal Cease, but I think they ended up keeping him because I don't see his name on the wire.
Yeah, they've been busy for sure, and they've been pretty active here the past couple of seasons, haven't they?
Hmm. Yeah,
And they're only, they're definitely only they're unlucky to be in the same division as the Dodgers. Obviously, they have a good
yeah,
record, 60 and 49, and if you look at the league, National League standings, as well, they're in that mix for sure.
yeah.
So it's a pretty competitive. I think part of the reason why we're seeing so many a high volume of moves, not necessarily players that you immediately recognize, but just depth, is because I think particularly in the National League, there's just a lot of teams with a similar winning percentage, similar outlook in terms of playoffs are concerned. So a lot of teams, rightfully so, think they're one or two pieces away, whether it's a bullpen or an extra
Hmm.
bat, from making a postseason push, and it's a pretty tight table. So there's no reason not to think that, right?
Yeah. And
Yeah. And
the
so, yeah.
Dodgers seem to have been fairly quiet, and they did pick up Brock Stewart from the Twins, uh, but they were fairly quiet this deadline season.
Yeah, yeah, you're right, Mike. And the Dodgers, to me, yes, they have like a free game lead in the division, but not by much as you think because of how so many injuries they have in their pitching. But really,
Well, they actually traded away a pitcher, Jack, to the Red Sox. They traded, I think, May to Boston, I believe.
well,
So he was acquired by Boston, who were looking for an arm for their bullpen. I don't know what the return was on that, but
mhm.
Dodgers have traded Dustin May. I mean, he was maybe not lighting it up for them per se, so it wasn't too hard of a decision possibly to move on from him. But yeah, I guess for the Dodgers, it's really a case of waiting and getting their full rotation and their full lineup back healthy, right? They kind of know,
Hmm.
obviously, from their championship winning season last year, they know what their best lineup is. So they just need to get healthy and be ready in time for October, right?
Yeah, yeah. But it's the next 2 months in the major leagues is going to be interesting. You got the Mets and the Phillies that are just going to battle it out. You got the Cubbies and the Brewers, and Reds. They'll try, but I think the NL Central is going to come down to the
It's
Cubbies and the
it's a
Brewers.
competitive division this year, isn't it?
Hmm. Uh, and then the Dodgers and the Padres. I'm not sure if the Giants are going to do get in there.
Yeah, I mean the Devers trade hasn't really worked out as
It's
well
worked.
as they thought it.
It's worked out for the Red Sox.
Yeah, it's kind of worked in the opposite so far. You never know. They might have a hot August and
Hmm.
things change. Um, but yeah, like you said, they're in a tough division, aren't they? And I think in terms of wild card position right now, they've got a lot of work to do to catch up. So it's a competitive National League for sure. I think in the American League side as well, um, it's a pretty competitive. Well, it's not as competitive as the National League, is what I will say. The Yankees and Dodgers obviously fancy themselves, or excuse me, the Yankees and Red Sox fancy themselves as contenders most years. But they have to catch up to Toronto, who
Hmm.
4 game lead over New York, 5 game lead over Boston.
Hey,
And so,
don't forget about Detroit too, Blake. So
well, yeah,
they have
they pretty much have that division locked down,
yeah,
though,
well,
in
they have
my
the same
opinion.
they too have the same record as the Blue Jays. So
Yeah, they'll be in the playoffs for sure. Yeah, they're pretty much that's not a particularly great
Yeah.
division most years. So Tigers kind of have that one locked down, and I think Houston's obviously tough. You mentioned the American League West earlier, Jack, and I think it is an interesting division for sure. Seattle and Texas, I think they're better than what their record is what I'll say, which is I think which is reflects the deadline moves they made because they think they're not 5 games worse, which is what they're behind Houston right now in terms of talent depth wise. So keep an eye on that division for sure. And I think if you look
Yeah.
at the wild card right now, it's Yankees and Red Sox have the 2 wild card spots in the American League, but Seattle and Texas are pretty much right there as well. So
Mhm.
definitely keep an eye on that American League, those last couple of spots come playoff time.
Yeah, it should
Yeah.
be very fascinating for the MLB races. Should be a very fascinating race and a very finish to the season heading into October. Which who can make the most noise and who could and all come that's and also what's going to come down to who I think is going to come out with the first last at bat last strike overall for the entire season. Well, I think it's just going to come down to that to see um which team is going to come down to, and I think it's going to really play out and play out to see how it's really all going to unfold for the final few months remaining in this regular season.
I think we're looking at a very competitive, I think, playoff race for sure. I think it's not quite maybe as top sided. I think we'll still see the big teams, obviously, Yankees, Dodgers will still be thereabouts, but I think definitely it's a more competitive table, I think, this year in terms of standing wise, like we mentioned earlier. So uh,
Oh yeah.
definitely an exciting last couple month or two of the season to keep an eye on for sure. Um, but yeah, I mean, in terms of storylines that I'm keeping an eye on for the rest of the season, I definitely think, like we mentioned for the National League, I think the Dodgers are still top to bottom the best team. But if they have issues with injuries and they're not able to get their best team on the field, it's not unrealistic to think San Diego can maybe win that division. And I think, likewise with the Central and the East Division, the Phillies and Mets, like you mentioned, are going to be battling it out there for sure very soon. And same thing with Brewers and Cubs. So um, I think, we've seen it recently where the division winner doesn't even necessarily, winning your division doesn't even necessarily guarantee you anything in terms of postseason success, right? Obviously, it's more advantageous to avoid that 3-game wild card playoff. But I mean, we've talked about this for the past couple of postseasons that we've covered here, that it seems like a lot of times the teams that sneak in via the wild card and kind of play their way through have a bit of an advantage. So I think we kind of know the teams to keep an eye out for. Um, in terms of National League, I think one team is going to really miss out in terms of postseason. We expect Milwaukee, Chicago, Philadelphia, New York, LA, and then San Diego. Only 5 of those 6 can really make it in terms of that's what we think is kind of that class of the National League, right? So that push for that last National League playoff spot will be particularly interesting. And likewise with the American League, if we're looking at, Toronto, Detroit, Houston, New York, Boston, Seattle, Texas. Maybe you would throw in Cleveland in there. They're 500 right now, so I probably wouldn't. But I think from that crop of teams, they're going to want to differentiate themselves. But I think, Mike, you mentioned earlier
Mhm.
with New York and Judge, and he's coming back. It's unclear if he's going to be able to play the outfield. They might have to kind of put him at
Yeah,
DH and move Stanton out or something. So, but
that's what they were saying. When he comes back, he's going to be the DH. Uh, but again, they just picked up Slater from the White Sox in the outfield. So he
so
may not
who's
be
who's
missing.
the class of the AL right now for you? Is it Detroit, Toronto, Houston? Like the American League is a bit of it's not I wouldn't call it wide open, but it's a
Yeah,
bit of a tough one to call right now, isn't it?
it is. I'm looking at 2 sleeper teams,
Okay.
or not really sleeper teams, but teams that don't get the press that the major markets get,
Sure.
and that would be Detroit, and the second would be Mariners.
Okay.
And Detroit just picked up Kyle Finnegan, who was the Nationals closer for the last several years. And they
Yeah.
picked him up today. So I wish Kyle, good luck and it's hopefully a good pickup for the Tigers.
And they've got their ace Scooble as well, which always
Hmm.
means a lot come postseason time, doesn't it? So
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know,
But
Jack. What do you think of the AL right now?
Oh, I think the AL is pretty stacked and loaded. If you really if you really look at it, they are the AL to me.
Who do you like? Who do you like coming out of
With their
the American League?
with their records right now. If I had to choose, if I had to choose so if I had to choose, of who I have coming out of the record right now, with the best record overall, in the AL for me, it would be the Detroit Tigers. Because why? Because they have some great veteran players and can really go after the ball. They can hit. They can do a little bit of everything. And I think that the Tigers are my team to beat.
Fair. Yeah, I think a lot of people are high on the Tigers. I now, yeah, and listen, and I wouldn't argue with them, to be honest. I think, top to bottom, they've got a really complete roster. Um,
And AJ Finch, the manager of the team, has pushed the
he's
right buttons, and he's building the culture, and the fans in Detroit are
Yeah,
liking and loving what they're seeing right
they're
now.
buying in. Yeah, the Motor City's buying in, aren't they?
All in.
For
Oh yeah.
sure. Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. I think this is it feels like their year in the American League, anyways. Maybe because we don't have a typical juggernaut, Yankee or Red Sox team this year, maybe. There's Yankees and Red Sox are still there or thereabouts. Um, but yeah, listen, it's tough to call, man. I wouldn't even really want to give a prediction right now for the American League, but it's going to be tight. It's going to be tight for sure. Do you have a lean for the National League, Mike, in terms of, given some of the deals that we've seen today? Obviously, we still got a ways to go come playoff time, but what's your pulse check on the National League right now?
Yeah, I mean, my sleeper team in the National Leagues is Milwaukee. Um,
So the team with the best record in the National League.
yeah, I mean, well, just from
No, I know
yeah,
what you mean though. They don't get as much coverage as like a Mets or
the,
Dodgers or
no, they
Cubs.
they don't. But I think it'd be interesting. The Brewers are going to be in town this weekend, and we're going to be going to the game
Okay,
Mm,
nice
Sunday,
mm.
which is it'll be fun to see them in person. They've always fielded a good team.
for sure.
Uh,
Yeah.
Mm,
and so I'd like to, that's who I'm kind of watching. Uh,
mm,
I think the
mm.
Dodgers will end up winning the West, and the East, it's Mets and Phillies. Pick them. Probably the Phillies will probably be my bet to win it.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah.
The way Schwab is hitting,
Schwaba.
and so.
We got a chance to see the All-Star that played 3 games, Mizorowski for
Hmm.
the Brewers is pitching out there in DC on Sunday, so you get a chance
Yeah.
to you can make your judgment to decide whether or
Hmm.
not he's worthy of an All-Star after you see him in person, right? So
Yeah.
that'll be an interesting matchup for sure. Jack, what do you National League? What's your pulse check on the National League right now? How do you feel
Okay.
about what you've seen? Trade pickups and whatnot.
Well, like I said before, the Chicago Cubs are by far the most, unlike the Brewers, the Chicago Cubs, like the Brewers, are the most dominant team in the NL East, much like the Brewers. With they were lost in those Cubs. Those the fans, the same team in the division in the NL Central, just down I-94 to the other team just down from Milwaukee, just down the road in the winning city in Chicago. For those fans, for the Cubs, are really all in. But if I had to choose a sleeper team in the National League, I would have to say for me is the New York Mets simply because you have Juan Soto. They have added all the pieces in. They got some great rookies and veteran players, and I think that with this ball club healthy, that they can make a deep playoff run in October. So that's where I'm sticking in. But for um but for me, if I had to choose which team I think is going to be the favorite to win it all, well, and to make it to the World Series in the National League, I think it's the Philadelphia Phillies because obviously if Bryce Harper and Schwarber, like Mike said, and
Was those the Mets or Phillies? Because you just picked both of them. So
right,
who do you like more for that NL East division crown?
the Mets.
Okay, so you think the Mets are going to win the National League East over the
I think
Phillies?
it'll look. All I'm saying is I think it'll be very close. I just think it's going to be
Okay.
the
Well,
Mets
let me ask
that'll.
you this: who do you think will go farther in the playoffs this season, the Mets or the Phillies?
I
Oh,
think I
simple
think
question.
the Phillies will
So you
simply
think the Mets will
because
win the NL East, but the Phillies will go farther in the playoffs?
yes.
Okay. Okay. I mean, that's a
Think
totally valid
Yeah.
opinion because we've seen
think
it before, right?
think about it, Blake. It's happened before where you had the
Sure.
Braves. Um, 4 years ago, they went to the World Series and they didn't win the division. Guess what they did? They advanced all the way to the World Series.
Yeah, they won the chip.
Yeah, they won the championship and they won it in 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 the Fall Classic that year. So it can happen. It's just you just have to have the right pieces and the right culture and the right people to do it. And if that goes all well and the players stay healthy, then great things usually happen.
For sure. And wouldn't shock me as well to see those teams matching up in the NLCS. I guess I'm trying to think of they might end up playing the DS too, I guess, to be fair. But um, yeah, listen, it's some teams that have high aspirations in both the National League and the American League for sure. So, going to be some pretty exciting baseball to keep an eye on as we progress here through the season. So, um, we'll definitely keep recapping any important baseball news, trade news and whatnot as we're keeping an eye on it. But I think we kind of covered most of the big news, as we said. But yeah, lots of fringe moves from teams that have high ambitions for sure. So, but now I want to go ahead and pivot last baseball topic to the Hall of Fame enshrinement ceremony, which
Yeah.
happened this previous weekend, didn't it? The 2025 class. We had five inductees. We had Dick Allen, Dave Parker, who were voted in as part of the classic baseball era. And then as well, our three inductees from the writers were CC Sabathia, Ichiro Suzuki, and Billy Wagner. So some pretty big names. Ichiro was a 99.7% vote. So there
Yeah.
was one person who didn't give him the unanimous, right? Which is always a fun talking point, huh? But I mean,
Isn't he the first player from Japan to be voted into the Hall of Fame?
he is, yes, first player from Asia ever in the national and the Baseball Hall of Fame, which is
Hmm.
very exciting. And
Yeah, I mean, people forget he had quite a career in Japan too before he even came over
well, yeah, he
to the
didn't actually
U.S.
come over until he was like 26, right, or something like that.
Yeah,
And then
26, 27.
he had
Yeah.
3,000 hits, and
Hmm.
he started playing in MLB at that age, at my age, basically. So I still have time to get 3,000 hits, apparently. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, no, look, Ichiro, I think, Ichiro and CC were kind of the big names from
Hmm.
that class. CC, obviously, that workhorse pitcher, probably maybe best known for his time with the Yankees
Yeah.
later in his career. But yeah, I mean, a monster pitcher as well, really reliable in the postseason as well, particularly.
Hmm.
And I mean, Ichiro, what can you say? He's the hit king, holds the record for the most hits in one season. 3,000
Hmm.
hits. He was always a lock for
Yeah.
sure. I don't know. Well, do you think it's kind of surprising that he didn't get that he didn't get 100%. I guess some people, I think maybe some of the old writers that are a bit more traditional just never vote in somebody if it's their first time on the ballot, right? They think you have to kind of go in a couple times. But I mean, if Ichiro's not a unanimous first ballot Hall of Famer, then I'm not sure who is, to be fair, right?
Yeah, no, I would agree. I would agree. But it was good to see some of the old timers like, Dave Parker going in.
Yeah.
I can remember when he was playing with the Buccos and
Yeah.
Yep.
the 79 series against the Baltimore Orioles
Mm.
Yeah. He sadly
where
passed away, but he was a very class act player that
mhm.
always loves and beyond the game of baseball too, Mike. So you're
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, when the Orioles were up 3-1, and then the Buccos came back and won the last 3 games to win the series in 7 games.
Yeah, that was something very special. Back in the day, right there. For all
Yeah.
you history lesson people there, but yeah, that was just a great play by him and a great act for this Buckles team for the kind of playoff run they've been on. Yeah, there was definitely some crazy moments there in that series for that in that game for sure. No question about it. Definitely, but yeah, definitely one of the best players. Beloved, not to be there in person, but sadly of his death, yet to be remembered in honor of him, which was very nice and respectful. So that was
Yeah.
definitely a player well respected of a great prospect player that
Yeah.
of a part of player that he was in this game for a very long time.
Yeah. Well, there was another Hall of Fame inducting ceremony this afternoon in the NFL.
That's right, Mike. We're talking about the Pro Football Hall of Fame taking place this weekend. So I
The
hope
game's
everybody.
tonight. The NFL season
Well,
starts tonight.
yeah,
There's
well,
football on
not.
tonight? It's
It's football.
Yes,
July.
it's not a
What's
real
going on here,
game.
Jack?
I'll tell you what's going on.
Chargers v. Lions.
Yes, and usually when those games happen, Mike, the starters don't usually play those games. They usually give them a full rest to get ready for the start of the actual season. So you think about it, it's not a real football game. It's just a preseason.
Hmm.
Hey
Although
man,
what
football's
they
football.
yes, that's
Yeah.
right. And basically, what happens in the preseason is that you start rookies, and what typically happens is that you start rookies and typically preview and to expect what the players are going to give to you tonight for your teams. And that's really what preseason football is really all about. So you think about it, it's football, but it's not actual football the way that you look at it and think it. So the preseason. Yeah, so yeah, there is preseason. There is preseason tonight, but there will be some new coaches in hand. Obviously, Ben Johnson now no longer on staff with the
Lions.
of
He's
OC
with
with the Lions. He's
the
now with the
Bears.
Bears. Yes,
The Bears.
The
in the
Bears.
same division. In the same division. That that he is not longer on the team. So yeah, he's with the Bears, and
The defensive coordinator, Aaron Glenn, is
now
with
with the Jets, the
Jets.
Jets. That's right, Mike. And so a lot of coaching turnover changes for the Lions, although the same culture and winning culture is still in place under Dan Campbell's staff. Because Dan
Yeah.
Campbell,
We'll find
the
out.
most gritty guy, most endearing guy you'll ever be around with his gut and all the stuff that he does. After
Yeah.
watching him
He trusts his gut.
on the quarterback film with his quarterback Jared Goff, who is I watched him a lot on this Netflix series quarterback. Well, I can tell you that they have a great relationship to each other, even though he will not be playing tonight, just to get him rested for the start of the season. That I can tell you that Dan Campbell is all in every season whenever
Yeah.
he gets his Lions out in the field.
Well, the Eagles ex-offensive coordinator is now the head coach. Kellen Moore, head coach of the New Orleans Saints.
Well, they're not going to be a particularly great team
Who
this year,
dat?
though, are
Who
they?
dat? They won't have a quarterback.
That's usually something that you need, but yeah,
But are they going to chase the Falcons or the Buccaneers in that division, Blake?
they'll probably be chasing Arch Manning in the draft next year, if I had to guess, Jack.
Yeah.
Well, they got to so that he can build a winning culture down to that nation, so that everybody can just smile and be excited about down in the Big Easy.
Well, what about NFL training camp going on right now, Jackson? Obviously,
Well,
there's always news, buzz, updates as we get into camp here. We get to see players, new coaches, new offseason additions, new draft pick. I'll start with you, Jack. What has caught your eye as I know you've been watching? I know ESPN Sports Center has been going around the country, going to different training camps, looking at different spots here or there. What has caught your eye so far as we progress through training camp and get closer to the start of the NFL season?
what has caught my eye is Jane Daniels and the Washington Commanders, that they are really all in, having watched their interview on
Ooh,
SportsCenter, and
I
how
know someone who
and
likes that.
and and how I oh yes, and him, Uncle Mike and Goodens, shout out to him, that he can really just stay healthy and just all in. Jane Daniels, watching him as a QB, coming off of winning a great season under year one, taking his team all the way to the NFC Championship game for the first time since '91. Ended up losing to the Eagles in that in the NFC Championship game. It was at Philly, of course, which we all know how that turned out. But heading into this year in training
I got to
camp,
bring that up.
well, but that was last year. But
Nah, 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 I'm
that was
kidding.
last year. But this year,
New
we're
year.
looking ahead in a fresh start, new year of Gene Daniels, of how he knows of how he can really show up and just really taking. And he's one of those quarterbacks that can take one play at a time, and he knows his modality. And Terry McLaurin on their defense is all added up with Von Miller and Bobby Wagner. Bobby Wagner, if you remember, they had got along well before Dan Quinn back in the Seattle days, and they've had a great relationship a long time ever since then. So I do think they'll get along very well. And Terry McLaurin, yeah, there is some uncertainty up in the air with this contract clause situation, and they got to get that done because he is by far Jalen Daniels' best target playmakers. One of his great targets that he does on the field for an actual game, because he has the most receptions, 7-yard touchdowns heading into last season. They got to sign him, and they got to get this all done and squared away, or else they're not going to be the same team without him. Like I said, but at least you got guys like Deebo Samuel, who was drafted out of my beloved South Carolina Gamecocks team. Played
So
with
you're
49ers
gonna
prior.
lessen the load off of McLaurin, right, Jack? If they integrate Debo into that offense,
Yeah,
give Daniels some more weapons, right?
yeah, but you do have Zach Ertz and Laramie Townsend and Josh Harris and Magic Johnson, who can win and build a championship culture for this team and try to take this team in the right direction. Other than the Philadelphia Eagles, of course, who are in their division, of course. But my point is that the Commanders and really with Von Miller, if you look at Von Miller, anywhere he's been, he's took it. For playing his entire career in the NFL, he has built a championship formula for winning this for winning culture. He's taken you start off with his playing career with the Broncos. He took his team to the Super Bowl, and he played with Peyton Manning, and he was a player that sacked every single play on the Panthers in that Super Bowl, and he's won he's won a Super Bowl ring with the Broncos, and then after that he got traded to the Bills, which he did not get to the Super Bowl with the which he did not get to a Super Bowl because he had to deal with Chris Jones and the Kansas City Chiefs that year. Is also a great defensive player. He had to deal with because he had to deal with Patrick Mahomes in that division in the AFC in that conference. So that was just a really that was just a bit of it. That was just a bit of a downside for him. But now he's traded to the Commanders, which I feel like to me is a great fit. And I think to me to beef up in this defense for what the Commanders are looking for, then I think that what they're doing is for the defensive side of the ball with Bobby Wagner and adding some veterans to this team. I think that the Commanders, to me, what impressed me the most by training camp is that they've found all the right pieces, and I think that Washington football and the Commanders out there for the training camp up there in Ashburn, those people are out there. From what I can understand, the culture that they're trying to build for this team, and Dan Quinn just knowing what he believes in, because a championship guy who knows how to win games. He's took his team to the Super Bowl with the Falcons. We all know how that turned out, but he's won a Super Bowl
Hey.
with the Seahawks prior to that, and he knows how to win games. He's that one game at a time kind of guy, and
Right.
I think that's what impressed me the most on what I think is stood out for the Commanders, since they got a preseason game coming up against the Patriots. But I'm not looking ahead of that. But to me, the Commanders in training camp is that really with Terry Owens and Louis Armstrong and Robbie Christian and those guys, obviously they will be starting Marcus Mariota as their quarterback mostly likely in the preseason. But for Commanders fans out there, including Uncle Mike, who's listening, of course, with Jayden Daniels with his one game at a time mentality quarterback who's won a Heisman Trophy and knows how to win and knows how to build championship culture and knows how to win games and really from what I can tell that Jayden Daniels, when I look at him player, that he's a player that is ready to get to work this season and knows how to take one play at a time and just take care of the football and stay and one of your playmakers, Deebo Samuel, and your other targets that Jayden Daniels has is to stay healthy all season and just try to take care of the football on both offensive and defensive balls at a time. And if that goes all well, then I think the fans in Washington should be excited for and looking forward to for what their fans and their team is up for this season.
Mike, I'm going to read you a headline about the Commanders and Jayden Daniels. Jayden Daniels notices night and day difference in second season. How excited does that make you for this upcoming Commanders season?
Where's my ring?
There you go.
I like it.
He's planning the parade right out in the National Mall already,
Yeah.
Jack.
How about that? If that happens, I can make it. Well, why don't I just? Well, if that happens, Uncle Mike, then may I make a suggestion? If that happens in a team parade in the National Mall, well, how about if the Commanders win the Super Bowl, that their team comes out and they do a rally, and a parade of them with the team, they all walk out of the U.S. Capitol like they do in presidential inaugurations, and they do it that way if they win the championship. That's how I think it's all going to go down in D.C. at the National Mall. What do you think about that idea?
That'd be great.
Wouldn't it?
The Commanders got 2 new offensive tackles,
and of course they all do it walking out, and of course they all do that by permission, by support of the president of the United States. So I think that would work out pretty well if that were to happen. But that would be something.
Yeah. And you were talking about Von Miller.
Yes,
That's
Good
like
pickup.
he's like being a player coach on the field. And,
For sure.
He's been helping a lot of the young veterans and rookies come along. So it's been great. I think on their defense side, what I'm watching for is Marshawn Lattimore having a rebound season this year.
Yep.
And then I also got my eye on Trey Amos, a second round rookie defensive back.
Mm-hmm.
He's been playing well in practice, but if he can, we can get him to play, good DB, then you're going to see a very competitive team. So I'm excited. I can't wait.
Well, that would be something to look forward to for the upcoming NFL season for you, Washington Commanders fans out there, right? Anybody who's listening, Uncle Rob and Annie Shell, who are lifelong fans, and Uncle Rob, who actually has one of his cousins and friends of his that are lifelong season ticket holders of the Commanders. I mean, who knows? Maybe they can hook us up with tickets against the Seahawks, but we'll see about that.
Hey,
Seahawks win every
easy,
day.
easy. Jackson, another team that's definitely caught the attention is Aaron Rodgers and the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's out there in training camp right now, talking to the media, generating quite a bit of interest. There's already chance for bring
Mm-hmm.
us number 7 from the
Mm-hmm.
Steelers fans in
Mm-hmm.
reference to the Steelers quest for a 7th Super Bowl
Mm-hmm.
title. I mean, in my opinion, it seems like a lot of hype for a okay season at best, but I don't know.
Mm.
What do you made about the hype around Rodgers out there in Pittsburgh so
Well,
far?
I saw him. I saw a highlight of him on the Pat McAfee show,
Right.
and
Yeah, yeah.
he was he was with a bunch of his with his head coach and his teammates out there having a blast, having a great time out there in Detroit in Pittsburgh at their training camp facility. Yeah, they're having so much fun out there, but at the same time, you're just getting ahead of yourself. You just don't want to get caught up
It's
in
still
the
July
outside
for
noise and
for for
stuff. But
God's sakes, you know?
yeah, I hear you, but you just don't want to get too much ahead of yourself because of how he's aging and how he's getting towards the end of almost towards the end of his career. And I think that yeah, you should be excited, but you don't want to get excited too much. Is really the way I put at it.
They're not beating the Ravens.
No, they're not. And they're probably, I mean, the games against Cincinnati will be competitive as well,
Mm-hmm.
won't they? I mean, Cincinnati can score the ball, at least we know that. So, yeah, I mean, listen, we'll go through the schedules and stuff as we progress through August, but yeah, I mean, it was kind of predictable that, Steelers being a big name, historic franchise, Aaron Rodgers being, a huge name that everyone was going to kind of talk themselves into it and get excited for. Man, I mean, listen, it will be exciting to see him wearing the black and gold. Don't get me wrong, but in terms of how their season is actually going to go, I'm definitely more on the pessimistic side than optimistic, like you said, Jack, given his age. But it's going to
Right,
be an
right.
interesting storyline to follow, for better or for worse, for the terrible Tal Nation, won't it?
That's right, Blake. That's right. And I also want to turn my attention to another team in the AFC. That would that would be um, that would that would be that would be Drake May and the New England Patriots, who are tired of losing and they want to build a winning culture like they did when Tom Brady left that door up there in New England and
Well, I got a new coach.
yes they did, and yes they did, and his name is Mike Vrabel, and who by the way played for the Patriots when he won a few Super Bowls with them. When Bill Belichick was the helm as head coach with Tom Brady being their quarterback, and he won as a player with them for about a few years, and he knows how to build a winning culture for those fans up in Foxborough who were tired of a losing season last year. They want change, and they want to get this thing turned around. And anybody that we heard from and talked to from New England are tired of that, and they want to get this thing turned around and squared away. And you're right, Mike. Mike Vrabel at the helm and now in charge. They better turn this around and get some right quarterback plays addressed and get their mistakes and corrections squared away, because the Patriots, they do not want to have another losing season like they did last year and get this one turned around. And let me give you an example of that. So you remember how Washington had a losing season and they and everyone in the stadium wear paper bags and trying to be like fans.
Don't
Well,
remind me.
I will, because think about what the Jets did. The Jets were like that too, very years ago too. But Washington fans were like that a long time ago. And what did they do? They made a change in their general manager and front office and their coaching staff, and they went from a losing to a winning season. And things can change and happen, but it's just not going to be a 1 day process. Now it's going to take it's not going to be a 1 year process now. It's going to take some time, but I do think there's some brighter days ahead, years ahead. Maybe not this year, but years ahead. down the road for anyone who's a fan of the Patriots should be should be acquiring more patience, but not as much longer patience as you may think. There'll be some bright days in New England, but maybe not this year. But I do think they'll be head in the right direction one of these days in the upcoming years for building the future. Hopefully,
Yeah. What do you think of the Raiders?
the Raiders.
Definitely team to keep an eye
Well,
on, right?
well, yes, they have just hired the former Seahawks head coach and former USC head coach Pete Carroll, who's been coaching in football for a very long time in both levels. And you think about it, Pete Carroll took the Seahawks to a Super Bowl two times in his career as a coach, won one and lost one, and he's won championships at USC back in 2005 at the Rose Bowl, and that was a great game, by the way. And so Pete Carroll's a coach. Wherever he goes, he's always turned a football team around. Wasn't so last year for the Raiders, but I do hope that the Raiders can get this all taken care of and squared away, and just get the right people in place, and just stay healthy, and just don't make too many mistakes. And hopefully, if Pete Carroll can turn this thing around as a coach, he knows which he knows how to do, by the way, and I hope that he does. But yeah, and yes, Pete Carroll is getting older, but still, he is very fit and still very young, and still takes very, very good care of himself. And I think Pete Carroll, wherever he goes as head coach, he knows how to win. So I think he'll find a way to win. It won't be easy, but I do think Pete Carroll will find a way at the helm to get this team turned around and taken care of and done from the first place.
And he's reunited with Geno Smith.
That's right. Who by the way was his quarterback from our beloved Seahawks. So now he gets this opportunity and a shot at it again with in for the second team, second shot at it for the second team in the upper conference with the Raiders. So that will be very fascinating to watch. Hopefully, if that goes all to fruition, if anyone were to care about. And so that is where I think things stand right now for the Raiders, to see if he stays healthy and if all goes as planned, then we'll see. But maybe he'll have a great season, winning season for this team. But still, you're going to have to deal with Patrick Mahomes and those Chiefs with Andy Reid in that division, which is really tough. But then you also, but at the same time, you play in a tough division where you have to deal with the Broncos, who are getting better, and most notably the Chargers, who we're going to be seeing tonight in the preseason game tonight. So that's going to be a very gut-wrenching tough division right there to deal with there. So lots to be excited, looking forward to it. But at the same time, got to deal with the AFC West. It's a gauntlet.
For sure. Lots of teams to keep an eye on as we progress through training camp here, and we get closer and closer, get through a couple of preseason games, and we're not too far away from the season, gentlemen. So
no, we're not.
We're definitely going to have lots to discuss. We're going to also bring you a fantasy football special as well here on Good Guy Sports in August. So definitely keep an eye on that in terms of NFL news and notes.
Yes.
Jackson.
And so yes.
We have one last thing I wanted to discuss on the show before we get out of here today. Me and you took a little trip over to the Queen City, aka Charlotte, this previous weekend, a couple hours west of where we are here in the Triangle currently, to attend a little sporting event, Major League Soccer game, Charlotte FC victory over Toronto. We were there with one of our other co-hosts who couldn't be here today, Blake Lamberger. He was nice enough to get us tickets. He's obviously close to the goalkeeper there, Christian Colina. So we were able to watch him keep a clean sheet against Toronto. Very exciting game. Both of ours first Charlotte FC games. So shout out to BL Lamberger and Christian Colina. Jack, what'd you make of the game and that experience?
It was epic, and I really enjoyed it. And I did want to point out real quick before I continue. I know we're very short on time, but I found out that he is at a anniversary, 1 year anniversary tonight. So that's probably where he's at. So
Oh, shout out Blake Lumberger.
yeah, shout out to Blake Lumberger, who's
Yep, that's fine.
yep.
But what'd you make of the game,
He
Jack?
was
That's
there.
what I want to know.
He was there, which is where he'll be, which is where he's at tonight. But the game, right? So man, I had a great time with you. I enjoyed that we scored 2 goals and we got the shutout that we needed. I thought we were going to be like a 2-1 game or end up with a 0-0 draw, but it turns out that we walked away with a 2-0 victory, which is something that I was a bit surprised about. Didn't we saw coming, but at least Charlotte found a way to get it done anyway. But meeting Christian Pawlicka and their other star players and meeting them after the game, it was very special. And Blake Lumberger was nice enough to hook us up with a club level seats, and he was with tickets, and we had a great time. And meeting with all the players and getting on the field after the game, it was very special, and their families and that get out on the field and just to see them get along very well and their families, and it was quite special. And I and took so many pictures together, and we had a great time, and I had a blast. It was awesome. It was something I'll never forget. But man, I'll definitely be back there soon, eventually for a soccer game. But overall, my impression, I had a great time, and it was electric, and the fans were into it, and it was very exciting, and it was a great special treat and fun trip that that the guys had over the weekend. It was special and fun to watch.
For sure. And shout out to Charlotte FC and the MLS season as they progress. They're playing currently next couple weeks Leagues Cup game against teams from Liga MX down in Mexico. So a couple of fixtures there, but MLS season is kicking into gear as they progress towards their postseason as well. So Charlotte FC will definitely be keeping an eye on them as they're certainly doing well in their season, and they've turned Bank of America Stadium into a bit of a fortress. Hopefully, the Panthers will be looking to do the same. The Carolina Panthers will be looking to do the same for their games as well come this year. But yeah, no, so far so good for Charlotte FC.
Yeah, they just need to win on the road. They're 9-2-1 at home, but only 3-9-1 on the road.
There you go. That's the crux of it. That's the crux of it. Obviously, Bank of America, we saw some of the traditions, some of the crowd really helps get them over the line. So hopefully they can turn some of that form around away from home.
Yeah. So I got a question. Jack sent me many video clips of the game. Thank you, Jack. They were great to see. Now,
You're welcome.
do they it looks like they only sell tickets for the lower bowl, the upper bowl.
I think for most games,
Yes.
I think it's similar for for the MLS
I mean,
teams playing.
that totally makes sense because it gets everybody. The crowd is not so spread out, so they're all down in a
For
lower
sure.
bowl yelling.
For sure,
So
yeah.
that makes a lot of sense.
And I think as well for some of the like playoff games or the bigger fixtures, they open up the upper section. I think that similar in Seattle and Atlanta where they also play in NFL stadiums, where they're not able to give it the full capacity, but for the bigger games they open it up for sure. So if they find themselves in a big playoff game, they're gonna pack the Bank of America Stadium, I would imagine. So definitely keep an eye on that.
And
it looked like a great night.
That was great.
Beautiful
absolutely,
weather.
it sure
Great
did.
time.
And an example of that, Blake, would be how in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, if you ever go to Atlanta United game, well, they use like curtain and they close the upper section off, versus like the outdoor stadiums, they do it in a more different way. So I do get what it is you were talking about there.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, it looks like we are just about out of time here, chaps. So just want to say thanks for joining. Jackson Gerke, Mike Roby, myself, Blake Gerke. Thanks for another great episode of Good Guys Sports. Before we go, I'll do a quick show and tell of the Charlotte FC bobblehead that we got at the game as well before I forget. For you viewers, striker Vargas from striker from Colombia. His bobblehead night, he scored as well during the game. So shout out to Vargas from Charlotte FC. But thanks everyone for tuning in and listening. And Good Guys Sports will be back soon for the month of August. Thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye now.